Chapter 34. Love makes you forgive easily, Natasha thought, and marriage makes you almost blind. She had forgiven Vikram again and again for so many faults of his, because she loved him madly. Then one day, she realized that perhaps she was madly in love with the idea of him, rather than him as a person. She loved the fact that he had taken her away from the model world and given her a home to look after. She pardoned him for all that he did to her because of all that he did for her. When the lines blurred, she stopped forgiving. A few hard truths had hit her, and she knew she needed to start finding herself now, or it would be too late. How had she let herself get to this point? Her self-respect eroding over the years, small ways in which he dominated over her, without question, almost like a god. Cruel words that corroded her dignity, actions she excused him for. Silently, she accepted it all because she loved him and because she was married to him. That was what a wife should do. For so long, she thought, keep the marriage intact, even at the risk of losing yourself. For how many more years would she take Vikram's abuse? He controlled her life. Did she have any strength left to control it herself? Was her life with Rahul? Did she see a future in it? What would she do with Dia? What did she want to do with her own life? Did she have enough money? Slowly and surely, she found the answers within. Since she didn't have the help of her friends anymore, she felt a little lost. But that email, this disintegration, the fallout with her friends, all of that was allowing her to finally face her problems, to discover her strength and be the woman she could be proud of. She needed to let Vikram go. But how? Natasha felt alone. She wanted to reach out to her friends, but they weren't interested. They would rather let time make the problems go away. It was the Friday following the party, and there had been no second email yet about the names of the women involved in those scandals. Clearly, the sender was waiting for the right time. All the wives were on tenterhooks. Natasha was unable to concentrate on her housework, and Vikram had been behaving dreadfully. One night at dinner, Dia said, "I don't want to play the violin anymore. I'm bored with it." Natasha was aghast. "But you love it. You've been playing it for 3 years now and are so good at it." Dia played with the roti and chicken that Natasha had experimented with that day and disregarded her mother. She said, "What crap are we eating? Isn't there any salad?" "I made that dinner." Natasha glared at her. "Eat it. We'll talk to your teacher tomorrow about your violin classes. I want to know why you suddenly want to quit." Vikram pushed his plate away too. "If the child wants to leave it, let her be, Natasha. She has talent. Children would always like having it easy, so as parents we must help them stay on the correct path." "Oh, like you stuck to your modeling after you got married." His sarcasm was obvious. He knew how to needle Natasha about giving up her career after getting married. "That was different," Natasha said, wondering how he never took her side on anything. "And I wasn't a child who needed to be pushed then." Vikram ignored his wife and turned to Dia. "It's okay, sweetheart. Whatever makes you happy." "But Vikram," Natasha began. That was all that Natasha had to say, and Vikram erupted. He got up and threw his plate of food across the room. Dia was stunned, seeing her father for the first time like this. But Natasha had become so oblivious to his outbursts, she kept eating. Vikram sat down. "Now go get me more food," he said to his wife. "No." Natasha was calm. Vikram reached across the table and aimed to slap Natasha. Dia screamed. Natasha managed to move away just in time, but not before Vikram's daughter saw what he was capable of doing. Natasha turned to her daughter. "Go to your room right now." Dia nodded, about to cry, and finally, perhaps for the first time in her life, listened to her mother. Vikram sat back in his chair, still fuming over his wife's attempt to speak up. Natasha refused to serve him any food. She cleared the table and stood behind the chair. He got up and stood in front of her, waiting for her to apologize. She looked at him and said, "Now look at what you've done. You've shown your daughter What a monster you really are. Vikram lunged across to hold Natasha by the throat, but swiftly she caught his hand and twisted it behind his back. He grimaced in pain, stunned at his wife's show of strength. She shouted, "Don't you ever raise your hand at me again, or I will have you thrown in jail forever." She didn't let go of his arm. "You do not know that I have evidence of your violence. Your daughter was a witness just now. I have photographs from when you hurt me, so don't try anything funny when I let your hand go." She let go and he slowly turned to face her. She saw a different Vikram, not angry, but afraid. Finally, she had stood up for herself. She was repulsed by him. "I want a divorce, Vikram, and as much alimony as will make me comfortable in my new life. I don't want any arguments about it, because the lawyer I've hired will not only throw you in jail, but let me keep every single piece of your property, and that's not the worst of your troubles." Natasha felt a power within her to stand up for herself. She had always known she had rights, but she never had the courage to demand for them. Now was the time. If she didn't stand up for herself now, she never would. She would fall victim to a cycle of endless abuse, and she would have only herself to blame. "What about Dia?" Vikram asked finally, when he found his voice again, unable to understand how Natasha had thought about all this in such a short time. "Dia will be sent to boarding school in Panchgani, which you will pay for. And once a psychiatrist says you are well enough to see her, she can stay with you during vacations. Till then, I will have custody, and she'll come stay with me." Vikram snorted. While stunned, he knew his wife would not have the guts to carry out these plans. She was too lazy. She depended on him, would be nothing without him. He had made her, and he would wreck her. "You can't make me do all this. You're just threatening me." He went and sat on the sofa as Natasha followed him with her hands on her hips. "Trust me, Vikram. If I show those photographs to the women's cell and NGOs, not only will your career be over, but your reputation will be ruined forever too. I suggest you do as I say, and till I move out, you can get out of this house as well." Natasha continued. "You have 10 minutes to pack your things, or all these photos go up on Facebook, so that all your friends can see what you've done to your faithful and loyal wife." Vikram decided Natasha was serious in her threat. He walked to the bedroom to prepare to move out, as Dia came out of her own room. He wanted to give his daughter a hug, but Dia went to her mother, taking her hand. She whispered, "Bye, Dad." Vikram didn't take long. He came out of the bedroom, looked at his wife and daughter, and wheeled his small bag out the door. Natasha hoped he had learned his lesson, that the most precious possessions are neither money nor fame, but love and family. Her heart broke as she watched Vikram leave. One tiny part of her wanted to run after him, ask him to come back, forgive him. They had survived so many years after all. But the more she thought about it, the harder she was convinced that Vikram had lost all respect for her. Why should she still love him? Vikram needed to be alone. Only then would he change to be a better father for Dia. Because the best thing a father can give to a child is respect to the mother.